A biker's daughter was born deaf. Her new nanny held a secret, not in her words, but in an old violin case. What happened next would shatter the silence, reveal a hidden identity, and pull them all into a dangerous world where music is the only protection. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The gates of the Iron Confederacy compound were not a place for quiet. They were for the roar of engines, the clang of tools, and the low rumble of men's voices. Inside the president's house, however, there was a different kind of silence. A deep, profound quiet that James, the club president, felt like a weight in his chest. His 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was deaf. She had been since birth. The doctors said it was profound, untreatable. She lived in a world of vibrations and touch and sight. She was a bright, happy child who communicated with her hands and her expressive eyes, but James ached for her. He wanted to give her the world, but a part of it seemed locked away forever. He needed help. The club's lifestyle wasn't exactly child-friendly for long stretches. Mercy, his wife, had passed away 2 years ago. The club's women helped, but they had their own families. He needed a full-time nanny. The agency sent Alina. She was in her late 20s, plain in a simple way, with calm gray eyes and a quiet voice. Her resume was sparse, some childcare experience, good references. She didn't flinch at the motorcycles or the men. She looked at Lily not with pity, but with a gentle, focused curiosity. She knew basic sign language, which was more than James did. "You're hired," James said after a 10-minute interview. He was a man who trusted his gut. His gut said she was steady. Alina moved into the guest house on the property. She was perfect, patient, kind, organized. Lily adored her. Alina taught James sign language alongside Lily. Mealtimes became a clumsy, laughing mix of gestures and spoken words. The club members, tough as nails, would practice their ABCs in sign to impress the little princess. But Alina was different. She never talked about her past. She didn't have a phone. She seemed to listen intently, but sometimes James would catch her staring into space, a sad, faraway look in her eyes. She had beautiful, long fingers that were always moving, as if playing an invisible piano. One afternoon, James came back from a club run earlier than expected. He walked into the living room and stopped dead. Alina was sitting on the floor with Lily, but she wasn't holding a toy or a book. Cradled under her chin was a violin. It wasn't new. It was old, the wood warm and worn, with a deep, rich color. James was about to speak, to ask what she was doing, when she drew the bow across the strings. There was no sound, not for Lily. But Alina closed her eyes, her body swaying slightly. She played. James could hear it, a single, pure, beautiful note that filled the quiet room, a middle C. Lily, who was coloring, froze, her head tilted. She put down her crayon. She turned, not toward the sound, but toward the vibration in the air. She crawled over to Alina and placed her small, perfect hand flat against the violin's smooth wooden body. The vibration traveled through the wood, into her hand, up her arm. Lily's face changed. Her eyes, usually so focused on visual cues, went wide with a new kind of wonder. A smile bloomed on her lips, a smile of pure, shocked delight. She felt the music. James felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. Alina opened her eyes and saw him. She didn't stop. She played a simple, slow scale. Lily's hand stayed on the violin, her smile growing as the vibrations changed with each note. She could feel the difference. When Alina finished, the silence that followed was electric. "What?" James said, his voice a rough scrape. "Was that?" Alina gently put the violin down. Lily patted the wood, her face radiant. "She can feel it, James, through bone conduction, the vibration. It's a different way to hear." "Who are you?" he asked, taking a step forward. This wasn't a nanny with a cute trick. This was something else. Alina looked at Lily, then at James. She took a deep breath, as if stepping off a cliff. "My name is Alina Rostova." The name meant nothing to James, but the way she said it, it held weight. "I was a violinist," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. 2 years ago there was an accident. A stage light fell, it damaged my hearing, not completely but enough. The world of sound I lived in, it became distorted, painful, broken. I vanished. My manager, a man named Victor, he didn't handle it well. He'd invested everything in me. He became obsessive. He wanted to put me on stage anyway, call it a comeback. He said I was being weak. I ran." James just stared. A world-famous musician was hiding in his guest house, teaching his daughter to feel music. "I've been working," Elena said, her hands trembling slightly. "Studying, working with the deaf community. The violin, its vibrations are pure. It's not about hearing the note the way you do. It's about feeling its truth. Lily, she feels it. I think I can help her. I think I can give her music." James looked at his daughter. Lily was now signing, her small hands moving excitedly. Again, Maury happy. He felt a surge of emotion so powerful it threatened to knock him over. Hope, fury at the world that took his wife and his daughter's hearing, awe for the woman in front of him. "This manager," James said, his voice turning cold, the club president's voice. "Victor, he's looking for you." Elena nodded, fear finally showing in her calm eyes. "He thinks I'm a commodity he lost. He has people looking. If he finds me, he'll drag me back, use my story for pity, ruin this real work I can do." James walked over to the window. He looked out at his compound, at his empire of iron and loyalty. He looked back at Elena, who held the key to a world for his little girl. He looked at Lily, who was still beaming, her world just made bigger. "You're under the protection of the Iron Confederacy now," he said, the words final as a judge's sentence. "You're not just the nanny, you're family. Victor doesn't get to touch what's mine." From that day, everything changed. Elena's lessons with Lily became formal, sacred time. She used special tools, tuning forks, vibrations through different materials. Lily responded like a flower to the sun. She began to listen with her whole body, her face alight with concentration and joy. James and Elena grew closer. Charged moments built in the quiet house after Lily was asleep. Him finding her in the kitchen, making tea, their hands brushing. Him standing in the doorway, watching her explain vibration to Lily with a patience he'd never known. The air between them hummed with a tension that had nothing to do with music. A pull of two wounded people finding something unexpected. One night he confronted it. "Why here, Elena, of all places to hide?" She looked at him, her guard down. "Because no one looks for a ghost in the heart of a motorcycle club, and because I saw Lily's picture at the agency. She looked like a girl trapped in silence. I know that prison." He reached out slowly and tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Her breath hitched. "You set her free," he murmured. The threat arrived a month later. A sleek black car pulled up to the compound gates. A man in an expensive suit got out. Victor, he had found her. The prospect at the gate, a young guy named Leo, radioed the main house. "Prez, there's a suit at the gate. Says his name is Victor. He's asking for Elena Rostova. Says it's a business matter." James's blood went cold. He was in his office, going over shop invoices. Elena was in the living room with Lily, helping her feel the vibrations of a tuning fork against a wooden block. "Keep him there," James said into the radio, his voice flat. "Don't let him in, I'm coming." He walked into the living room. Elena saw his face and knew instantly. The color drained from hers. Lily, sensing the change in the adult's energy, looked up, worried. "Stay here," James said to Elena. "Lock the door, don't come out." He walked out to the gate. Paul and Mick fell into step beside him without a word. The three of them, cuts on, formed an immovable wall in front of the black car. Victor was maybe 50, with slicked back hair and the hungry eyes of a man used to owning things. He didn't look intimidated, just annoyed. "I'm here for Elena Rostova," he said, his voice slick. "I believe she's employed here. There are contracts, legal matters to discuss." "She's under my protection," James said. "There's nothing to discuss. Turn around." Victor's smile was thin. "Mr. Kane, is it? I've done my homework. You run a motorcycle club. Charming. But this is the real world. I have lawyers. I have injunctions. I can have child services here in an hour questioning the environment you're raising a deaf child in, while harboring a mentally unstable woman who walked out on multi-million-dollar obligations." James took one slow step forward. Paul and Mick mirrored him. "That sounds like a threat," James said, his voice dangerously quiet. "We don't like threats." Victor finally showed a flicker of fear, but he covered it with bluster. "I'm just stating facts. Let me speak to her. This can be civilized." "No," James said. The finality of the word hung in the air. "You step 1 foot past this gate, and your shiny car leaves here on a flatbed. Your choice." Victor glared. He knew he was outgunned here today. This isn't over. He got back in his car and sped away, spraying gravel. Back in the house, Elena was shaking. Lily clung to her leg. "He'll come back," Elena whispered. "With police, with lies. He's very good at lies." James knelt in front of Lily. He signed, "You okay?" Lily nodded, but her eyes were big. James stood and looked at Elena. "He's not taking you, and he's not touching her. We need to be smarter." He called a church meeting, the full club. Elena waited in his office. She could hear the low rumble of voices through the door. James laid it out, the famous violinist, the threat, the danger to Lily's new hope. The vote was unanimous. Elena was one of theirs now. Protecting her was protecting Lily's future. The club's lawyer, Jessica, was summoned. "We need to dig on Victor," James told her. "Find dirt. And we need to make Elena's work here official, untouchable." Jessica went to work. Daniel, the club's tech-savvy member, started digging into Victor's online footprint. Life took on a dual rhythm. In the living room, there was music, not heard but felt. Elena worked with Lily every day. She taught her to distinguish between the vibrations of a low C and a high G by placing her hands on her own throat as Elena hummed. Lily's world, once silent, was now full of secret, tactile songs. In the club's world, there was preparation. Victor was making moves. He filed a missing person report for Elena, claiming she was mentally incapacitated. He contacted local news, spinning a tale of a manipulative biker gang holding a vulnerable artist captive. A news van showed up at the gates. James, with Paul beside him, gave a terse, "No comment," but the pressure was building. The charged space between James and Elena became a refuge. One evening, after a long, tense day, they found themselves alone in the kitchen. Elena was washing a dish, her shoulders tight with stress. "Hey," James said softly. He came up behind her, not touching her, just close. "You're safe here." She turned, her eyes full of a turmoil he understood. "I brought this to your door," to Lily. "You brought music to my door," he corrected. He reached out, his calloused fingers tracing the line of her jaw so gently. "You gave her a gift I couldn't. That's a debt I can never repay." Elena leaned into his touch, her eyes closing for a second. When she opened them, they were full of a longing that mirrored his own. The air between them crackled. He could have kissed her then. He wanted to, but he saw the fear still lurking in her eyes, fear of Victor, fear of this new feeling. He dropped his hand. "When this is over," he promised, his voice a low vow. She nodded, a silent agreement. Daniel found the leverage. Victor had a habit. He liked to gamble, and he was in deep to some very serious people in the city. Daniel presented the evidence to James. "We don't talk to his lawyers," James said, a plan forming. "We talk to his creditors." James, Paul, and Daniel paid a visit to the owner of an underground high-stakes poker ring. The man, known as the accountant, listened. James made an offer. The Iron Confederacy would handle a delicate collection problem the accountant had with a non-paying client across town. In return, the accountant would call in Victor's entire debt, immediately, with maximum pressure. It was a classic club move, leverage, not violence. The call came 2 days later. Victor, panicked, was screaming at Jessica over the phone about loan sharks and threats. He had to liquidate assets to pay his debt. His focus shifted overnight from chasing a lost asset to saving his own skin. The news stories died. The missing person report was quietly withdrawn. A week later, James came home to a new sound, not the violin, laughter, peals of clear, joyful laughter from Lily. She was sitting on the floor, her hands on a large, flat speaker Elena had hooked up to a special machine. The machine was playing a simple melody, translating it into powerful, intricate vibrations through the speaker. Lily was feeling the song, her whole body shaking with giggles as the vibrations tickled her hands. Elena was laughing with her, her face radiant. James stood and watched, his heart so full it hurt. This was the victory, not scaring off Victor. That night, he knocked on the guest house door. Elena opened it. She was in worn jeans and a soft sweater, her hair down. "Can I come in?" he asked. She stepped aside. The small space was neat, filled with books on sound therapy and music theory. Her violin case was open on the bed. "He's gone," James said. "For good, you're free." Tears welled in Elena's eyes, not of sadness, but of relief so profound it shook her. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't hesitate this time. He closed the distance between them and kissed her. It was nothing like the gentle touch he'd almost given in the kitchen. This was hungry, sure, a claiming and a promise all at once. Elena kissed him back, her hands fisting in his t-shirt, pulling him closer. All the tension, the fear, the unspoken want poured into that kiss. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. He rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," he murmured, "not as the nanny, as Elena, with me, with us." She looked up at him, this hardened biker president with a heart big enough to shelter her and fight for her. She saw her future, not on a stage, but here, in this chaotic, loyal, vibrant place, giving a little girl the world of music, and maybe, just maybe, finding a new song for herself. "Yes," she said. The peace that settled over the compound after Victor's defeat was deep and sweet. With the external threat gone, Elena's work with Lily blossomed. It was no longer a secret therapy session, it was the joyful center of their home. James had a soundproofed room built onto the house, not to keep sound in, but to create a controlled space where vibrations were pure and undistracted. The club members called it the music box. Inside the music box, miracles happened daily. Elena had a collection of instruments now, not just her violin. A cello, whose deep vibrations Lily could feel through the floor. A drum, whose beats she could sense in her chest. A piano, its tones transmitted through a special platform Lily stood on in her bare feet. Lily wasn't just reacting, she was learning. Elena developed a system. Different vibrations meant different things. A specific pattern from the drum meant happy. A smooth glide from the cello meant sad. Lily began to communicate her own feelings back by tapping rhythms on the special board Elena made. It was a new language, built on music no one else could hear. James watched it all with a kind of reverent awe. His little girl, who he'd thought was locked in silence, was having conversations in vibration. She'd run to him and press his hand to the piano lid so he could feel the hello song she and Elena had made. The first time she did it, he had to turn away so she wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. His relationship with Elena was the quiet, steady heartbeat underneath it all. It wasn't a whirlwind, it was a deep current. She moved out of the guest house and into his room, into his life. The club accepted it without a blink. To them, she had always been family. Now she was the old lady of the president. She had her own cut, a simple leather vest without patches, but everyone knew what it meant. Their chemistry was a constant, warm presence. In the garage, he'd teach her about motorcycles, his hands covering hers on a wrench. In the kitchen, she'd teach him to cook, her body fitting against his as they stirred a sauce. The charged moments were in the quiet, a shared look over Lily's head, his hand on the small of her back as they walked, the way he'd pull her clothes in the middle of the night, as if reassuring himself she was real. One evening they were in the music box. Lily was in bed. Elena was playing her violin, not for therapy, but for herself. She played a slow, aching piece that filled the small room with visible sorrow. James listened, leaning against the doorframe. He could hear the beauty, but he also heard the pain in it, the lost career, the accident, the fear. When she finished, she lowered the violin, looking exhausted. "You still miss it," he said softly, "the stage." She nodded. Sometimes, the noise of the crowd, the feeling of sharing it. But this, she gestured around the room, at Lily's little vibration board, this is more important. "It doesn't have to be one or the other," James said. He'd been thinking about this for weeks. The world thinks Elena Rostova is gone. What if she came back? Not for Victor, for you, on your terms. Elena looked at him, confused. "How?" "The club owns a bar downtown, the Black Sparrow. It has a stage, nothing fancy. We could fix it up. You could play for us, for the neighborhood. No managers, no pressure, just music. and Lily can be there front row feeling every note. The idea lit a fire in Alina's eyes he hadn't seen before, hope mixed with fear. "I'm Rusty." "You're Alina Rostova," he said, walking over and taking the violin from her hands. He placed it carefully in its case. "And you're my Alina, you can do anything." The project became a club-wide mission. The Black Sparrow stage was rebuilt with Lily in mind. Daniel, the tech wizard, installed a sophisticated vibration transmission system in the floor of the stage and the front row of booths. Sound engineers who were friends of the club tuned the acoustics perfectly. It wasn't Carnegie Hall. It was better. It was theirs. The news spread through the club's network. Alina would play, one night only, invitation only. The night arrived. The Black Sparrow was packed, but not with a typical bar crowd. It was filled with Iron Confederacy members, their families, friends from the community center, and a handful of trusted neighbors. Lily sat in a special booth right in front of the stage with James, her small hands flat on the table, which was connected to the vibration system. Alina stood backstage wearing a simple black dress, her violin case in hand. She was trembling. James found her. He wasn't in his cut. He wore a black button-down shirt. He took her face in his hands. "Listen to me. Out there is your family. They're not critics. They love you. And one little girl is waiting to feel your music. Just play for her." He kissed her, deep and reassuring, then nudged her toward the curtain. When Alina walked onto the stage, there was no grand announcement. A hush fell over the room. She nodded to Daniel at the soundboard. She lifted her violin. She didn't play a famous concerto. She played the simple, sweet scale she'd first played for Lily in the living room, the pure middle C. On the vibration system, it pulsed through the floor, through the table under Lily's hands. Lily's head shot up. She looked at Alina on stage, then down at her hands. A huge, familiar smile spread across her face. She signed to James, fast and excited, "Our song." James's throat closed. He just nodded. Then Alina began to play in earnest, a piece she'd written since coming to the compound. It wasn't sad. It was a song of finding home. It soared and dipped, filled with tenderness and a rising strength. The club members, these rough, tough men and women, listened in rapt silence. They felt it, not just the music, but the story in it. Mercy, their lost sister, Lily's silent world, Alina's fear, their own protection. It was their song. Lily experienced it all. Her eyes were wide, her hands glued to the table, feeling every note, every emotion vibrating up her arms. She bounced in her seat with the lively parts, went still and solemn with the quiet parts. She was inside the music. When the final note faded, the silence held for a breath, then the room exploded, not with polite applause, but with a roaring, stomping, whistling ovation that shook the walls. Men pounded the tables, women cheered. Lily clapped her hands together, her face alight with joy. Alina stood on stage, breathing hard, tears streaming down her face. She looked at James, who was smiling at her with more pride than she'd ever seen. She looked at Lily, who signed Maury, beautiful. She had played again, and it was perfect. In the euphoric aftermath back at the compound, as a smaller party carried on, James pulled Alina aside into his office. "You see," he said, holding her, "you didn't lose it. You just found a new way to use it." "I found a new reason," she corrected, wrapping her arms around his neck. The future seemed wide open and bright, but the past had one last, ugly card to play. Victor, bankrupt and desperate, had been watching. The local buzz about an amazing violinist at the biker bar had reached him. He'd lost his cash cow, and seeing a glimmer of her talent returning without him drove him mad. He didn't want her back for her talent anymore. He wanted revenge. He hired 2 low-life thugs to grab her. Their plan was simple: snatch her after a grocery run, scare her into signing over the rights to any future work, then dump her. They thought a nanny who lived with bikers would be an easy target. They followed Alina's small car from the market, but they didn't know the rules. A prospect named Leo was tailing her at a distance, a standard security procedure James had insisted on after the Victor incident. Leo saw the suspicious car and called it in. "Prez, Alina has a tail. Two guys in a blue sedan, looks like a grab. James was at the clubhouse, his blood turned to ice. Where? Heading toward the old mill road. Stay on them, do not let them box her in, I'm rolling. James grabbed his cut and ran for his bike. He hit his radio. All hands, Elena is in trouble, Old Mill Road, now. The response was instantaneous. The compound emptied. The roar was deafening as 20 bikes fired up at once. On the quiet mill road, the thugs sped up, trying to pull alongside Elena's car to force her over. Leo gunned his bike and shot forward, pulling up next to the driver's window of the thug's car. He pounded on the glass. Back off. Panicked, the thug swerved, clipping Leo's front wheel. Leo's bike wobbled dangerously, but he held on. The sound of the crash and the sight of the biker made Elena scream. She slammed on her brakes. The thug's car skidded to a halt in front of her, blocking the road. Two men jumped out. Then the thunder came. It started in the distance and rose to a wall of sound. James led the pack, his face a mask of pure fury. 20 Iron Confederacy bikes surrounded the scene in seconds, headlights blinding, engines screaming. The men dismounted. They didn't have weapons in their hands. They didn't need them. They were the weapon. James walked straight to the two thugs, who were now backed against their car, petrified. He didn't say a word to them. He went to Elena's car, yanked the door open. Are you hurt? She shook her head, trembling. I'm okay, Leo. Leo's fine, Paul's voice came over the radio. Bike scratched, he's pissed. James turned his attention to the thugs. Who sent you? They stammered. One muttered, we don't know any names, man, we just got paid. James grabbed the speaker by his collar and lifted him off his feet. Wrong answer. He looked at Paul. Take them to the shed, find out. Paul and Mick dragged the two terrified men away. James turned back to Elena, pulling her into his arms. She shook against him. He won't stop, she cried. He'll keep trying. No, James said, his voice deathly calm. He won't. He put Elena on the back of his bike and took her home. He settled her with Lily and Stella, then went to the club's shed, an old workshop at the back of the property. The thugs, thoroughly scared, sang quickly. Victor had hired them. They gave up his location, a cheap motel on the highway. James didn't go alone. He went with Jessica, the lawyer, and Daniel with a laptop. This wasn't a club run. This was a business call. They knocked on Victor's motel door. When he opened it, his smugness vanished, replaced by primal fear. James didn't step inside. You touched what's mine. I didn't, I just wanted to talk, Victor stammered. Save it, Jessica said, stepping forward. She handed him a thick envelope. This is a cease and desist. It outlines your harassment, your attempted kidnapping, and your previous financial malfeasance. If you ever come near Elena Rostova, Lily Kane, or any member of the Iron Confederacy again, every piece of evidence in this file goes to the district attorney and the national media. You will spend the next decade in prison, and you will be unemployable when you get out. Daniel held up his laptop, showing a live feed. Also, every financial move you make from now on is being monitored. Try to run, we'll know. Victor looked from Jessica's steely face to Daniel's screen to James, who stood like a stone statue of vengeance behind them. The fight drained out of him completely. He was a bully who had finally met a force he couldn't manipulate. I'm gone, he whispered. You'll never hear from me again. See that we don't, James said. They left him in the shabby motel room, a broken man. It was truly over. A month later, the compound threw its biggest party yet. It was Lily's 6th birthday, and it was also a celebration of peace. The theme was music and motion. Kids painted pictures of sound waves. There was a booth where you could feel different instrument vibrations, and in the center of it all was a small stage. Elena played with Lily beside her. Lily now had a child-sized cello specially adapted. She couldn't play notes, but she could draw the bow across the string, creating a deep vibration that Elena would then weave into a melody on her violin. They were making music together. The crowd watched, mesmerized, as the biker's deaf daughter and the world-class violinist created something beautiful and utterly unique. After the cake was cut and the noise died down, James stood with Alina, watching Lily run around with the other club kids, her laughter silent but her joy obvious in every movement. "She's going to change the world, that one," Alina said softly, leaning her head on James's shoulder. "She already changed mine," James said. He turned to face her, taking both her hands. "You both did." He took a deep breath. "I'm not a man for big speeches. You know what I am. You know what this life is. It's loud, it's messy. It's dangerous sometimes, but it's loyal, and it's full of love." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He didn't kneel, he just opened it. Inside was a ring, a band of braided silver and black, sturdy and beautiful. "Marry me, Alina, be my wife. Officially, let me be Lily's father in every way. Let's be a family." Tears filled Alina's eyes, but she was smiling. She looked at the ring, then at his earnest, tough, loving face. She looked at Lily, who had stopped running and was watching them, her head tilted curiously. Alina held out her left hand. "Yes," she said, "always yes." James slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He kissed her, and a fresh round of cheers went up from the club members who had been stealthily watching. Lily ran over, tugging on James's pants leg. She signed what? James knelt. He took Lily's small hand and placed it on Alina's ring, then on his own bare finger. He signed slowly, "Family, forever." Lily's face lit up with understanding and delight. She threw her arms around both of them in a fierce, vibrating hug. The Iron Confederacy hadn't given up its empire. It had added a new wing, a world of music and silence, of vibration and love, protected by leather and steel. Alina Rostova wasn't a missing person. She was found. And James Kane, the hardened club president, had found the two things he never knew he needed: the song that could reach his daughter and the woman who carried the music in her soul. Thank you for watching. What hidden talents have you discovered in the most unexpected people? Could a simple act change a child's world forever? Subscribe and share your thoughts below. Where are you watching from today?